Dear children, again we are coming back with our online classes. I welcome you all to the next session of our history online class. We have completed the first two important topics in the same chapter, French Revolution. We explained and studied the causes of French Revolution and cause of French Revolution. I hope that we have all studied these two important topics. Today, we are discussing the results of French Revolution. What changes were brought about by the French Revolution in France and as well as in world after this moment that we are discussing. Before starting that topic, I have to explain one important point. I have to mention one important point. And we are just discussing the role of women in French Revolution. What was the role of women in French Revolution or in France during this moment? Okay, as you know that during the administration of Louis, the women had no role in the societies. They spent their lifetime inside their house. And then some women went out for working, for earning money, income. But they had no voice in the political aspects or political field. But when revolution started, during the revolutionary period, they had some role. That means during this period, many women organizations were established in France. They gave help to these women organizations. But one thing we studied, during 1791 Constitution, which disappointed women because which categorized women as the passive citizen. They had no voting right, we already explained. This made some problems. Okay, they were all against this revolutionary protest movement, or especially 1791 Constitution. But during the Reign of Terror, and Maximilian Robespierre took difficult measures against women organization. He closed all the women organization. He demanded the people, the members, active members, to stop their their work against rulers. That's why women had different roles in the society in France during the movement. Just to keep this point in your mind. Then next we are discussing about the results. What were the results of French Revolution? Okay, the role of women you just keep in your mind and read the textbook and make it clear. Then let us discuss about the results of French Revolution. The foremost important result of the French Revolution is the changes in the administrative system. That means French Revolution had changed the administrative system of France. It's very clear that after the French Revolution, the administration of Louis had ended. Administration of monarchs had ended. A new type of government based on democratic principles came into force in France. Clear? Administration of monarchs were ended and democratic government came into power. That is the first important political change brought about by the French Revolution. The second important thing, and during this period, there was a slave system. Slavery was there in France. That means French had colonies in many Caribbean island countries. Okay, there they cultivated these colonies, Caribbean colonies, they cultivated different types of crops. That's why they needed laborers to do that work. But the Europeans, especially French and Europeans, were not ready to go the distant Caribbean islands. That's why what they did, they purchased the slaves from different other countries, Africa, America, and different other countries, and use or sent these laborers to these Caribbean islands. That means this slavery system or slave trade was abolished by the revolutionary government. Clear? The slavery system which was existed in France and other European countries was banned, abolished. That is the second important change. Abolition of slavery. Third one is abolition of censorship. That means during the Louis administration and revolutionary period, people had no right to publish anything. They had no right to write or print newspapers and journals, articles, etc. If it is, it was censored by the members of the government. This censorship was abolished. That means which allowed the local people or local society, including the third estates, to draw or to print newspapers to express their opinion. That's why abolition of slavery and abolition of censorship made lots of social changes in France. That is the third important point. And fourth important point is the provision of great philosophers of France. We explained in the previous classes. They provided or they inspired, introduced lots of great policies. Especially the idea of equality, liberty, fraternity. These great democratic principles which were propagated by the French Revolution had inspired the people of the entire world. Not only in France, it affected or it inspired and motivated the people of different other countries. Okay, and India and many other countries borrow the great principles of French Revolution or liberty, equality, fraternity and used as the means of protest against the colonial government of Britain and other countries. That means the great and very important philosophical results, the result of French Revolution, impact of French Revolution is the provision of the great principles, democratic principles of freedom, equality, liberty. These democratic principles brought about lots of changes in France and as well as in the world. These points you should keep in your mind. Some more points are there in the textbook. You read a textbook and make it clear. By this we have completed the chapter French Revolution. We have discussed the causes of revolution in the first, then cause of revolution. Now we have just explained results of French Revolution. Read your entire lesson and make it clear. And let us summarize the question and answer what we have discussed. We discussed only one question. What was the impact of French Revolution? Let us recall that question and answer. Thank you.
Dear children, let's recall the question and answer what we have learned. Question: what was impact of French Revolution? Otherwise we can ask, describe the legacy of the French Revolution for the people of world during the 19th and 20th centuries. Dear children, causes and cause of revolution we already learned. Now the results of French Revolution. What were the results of French Revolution? Okay. The results of French Revolution are, first point, the administration of the Louis or monarchy was ended. As a result of the revolution, administration of Louis or monarchs were ended and a form of government based on democratic ideas came into force in France, which affected the entire world. Okay. Second point, abolition of slavery and the abolition of censorship were the two social reforms which made changes in the life of the people. These two social changes not only affected the France but also it affected the entire world. These were the two important social changes brought about by the French Revolution in the world. Okay. Third point, the ideas of liberty, equality and democratic rights were the most important legacy of the French Revolution. These ideas spread from France to other parts of the world, which inspired the people of the entire world to move against rulers or move against colonial activities. Point, the ideas of democratic rights which inspired the people of different countries and which led to the end of colonialism. Next point, by the mid of 20th century, major part of the world adopted democracy as the preferred mode of rule. The next point, in India, the great philosophers and leaders were also adopted the great ideas of democracy to move against colonial administration of Britain. The great ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity which inspired the Indians also. Dear children, write this question and answer in your notebook and study the entire lesson. We have completed this lesson. Thank you.
Dear children, we are starting one more lesson now. Okay? We are starting the chapter 5 in geography, natural vegetation and wildlife. Okay? natural vegetation and wildlife. It's very easy to study because all these points, whatever it is given in the textbook, you studied in 8th standard. That's why we can finish this chapter very fast. Okay? Natural vegetation and wildlife. Okay? And especially the different types of vegetation found in India we are discussing the second part. First part we are discussing the general matters, natural vegetation, wildlife and the meaning, factors affecting natural vegetation, etc. The second part we are discussing different types of vegetation and the wildlife found in India. These two aspects we are discussing in the chapter 5, natural and vegetation and wildlife. Okay? Can we start the first part? Natural vegetation and wildlife. That means you should know the meaning of the term natural vegetation. That means vegetation and wildlife. The term is very familiar to you. You learned that two terms in the previous classes. Natural vegetation means vegetation which is grown naturally without the help of human is called as natural vegetation. Here comes a question. What is vegetation? Vegetation means plant kingdom, plant community found in an area. That means plants found in an area which is grown naturally without the help of human is called as natural vegetation. Got it? The next is wildlife. Nothing is to mention more. Wildlife means animal kingdom. Animal kingdom found in an area. That means we have learned the definition of these two terms. Natural vegetation means vegetation or plant community found in an area, and wildlife means animal community found in an area. Okay, we are discussing these two very simple points. And then, have you heard any other term which having the same meaning, similar meaning of vegetation and wildlife you studied in the previous classes or and our classes you studied? You everyone knows, I think. Okay, you know that a point. We use two words, flora and fauna. Flora means vegetation and fauna means animals, animal kingdom. Okay, flora and fauna. We are discussing flora and fauna of India mainly. As you know that India, our mother country, is rich in vegetation and wildlife. There are different varieties of plants and animals found in India. India is one of the countries in the world having rich diversity of flora and fauna. Okay, there are different types of vegetation on plants or trees found in our country, and these plants give shelter to different types of animals. Okay, it is rich in flora and fauna. Yes, India is one of the countries in the world having rich varieties of flora and fauna or biodiversity. Okay, this biodiversity is very useful to us. Okay, there are different species of plants, animals found in our country. These animals and plants which are very useful to us. What are the uses of this vegetation and wildlife? You already learned it in our classes, right? Okay, uses of vegetation. As you know that plants are very important to us. It provides food to us. It provides shelter to many other organisms. Okay? And it regulates the climatical conditions. Okay, the climatical conditions and rainfall, temperature, etc. Okay, and vegetation also prevents soil erosion. Okay, it provides many other industrial raw material to us. That means it is very clear that the vegetation is or flora is very useful to us. Okay, in the same way animals. Animals are also very useful to us. They provide foods, they provide milk, they provide many other raw materials for industrial and other purposes. Okay, this vegetation, flora and fauna are very useful to us. That is why we the humans depend on this flora and fauna for our living also. That makes a system. That makes a system between the organism, living organism and the physical environment. All these living organisms in the biosphere you studied are interrelated. As we have discussed that flora and fauna are very useful to us. We depend on flora or we depend on fauna or animals for our food. Okay, they also depend on, or animals depend on plants. That makes a system. Interdependence between between flora and fauna and human beings makes a system which is called as ecosystem. You study. That means what I am telling, all these living organisms found in the biosphere or physical environment are interrelated or interlinked. You study. These are very useful to us. It's very difficult for us to move or live without these two important organisms, right? And then you just think. And there are, as I have already mentioned, in our country, there are different types of vegetation or plants and animals are found. You just think, what are the factors affecting these wide varieties of biodiversity or wide varieties of flora and fauna? Why do we have different varieties of flora and fauna? India is a country having different varieties of flora and fauna. Why? What are the factors affecting flora and fauna? What we are discussing next. Okay. The first we discussed what is natural vegetation. Natural vegetation or vegetation means plant community found in an area. We use the term flora. Okay, and wildlife means animal community found in an area. We use another term to denote animal community which is known as fauna. And they are interrelated. They make a system which is called as ecosystem. Okay, and these plants and animals are very useful to us that we have already mentioned. The next we are discussing that what are the factors affecting the wide varieties of distribution of plants and animals, right? There are two factors which affect the distribution of vegetation and wildlife. There are two factors. One is relief factor and climatical factors. A relief factor, which means two important factors. One is land or terrain, the shape of the land and soil types. Climatical factors, there are three important factors. One is temperature, precipitation and amount of sunlight. The first point is land or relief. Shape of the land determines types of vegetation. That means, for example, the desertic areas or plain regions have thick forest. Okay, but at the same time, when we go towards the upper part of the mountainous region, the shape or that means growth of the plant reduces. That means it is very clear that land or relief features which affect the type of vegetation. When the vegetation alters, the kingdom, that means fauna also changes because they are interdependent. Okay, and then soil type. Nothing is to mention more. Soil type affect the type of vegetation and wildlife. Okay, desertic regions have dry soil, hot soil, okay, saline soil. That's why it supports only cactus and thorny bushes. But plain regions means the soil, the regions having alluvial soil, we can see dense forested areas. That means what? This plain region or type of soil, the soil if it is mature and fertile, which results more types of vegetation. But at the same time, dry region have less vegetation. Okay, that means soil type also affect the type of vegetation. Next is temperature. Temperature affect the type of vegetation. The same example also we can take. Desertic regions have thorny bushes and cactus, but the region getting high temperature and heavy rainfall, okay, having dense forested, Amazon forested area which is located in the tropical regions. Tropical region receives high temperature and as well as heavy rainfall. Okay, and next is rainfall. The amount of rainfall affect the type of vegetation. As you have already studied, the eastern states of India having dense forested areas because it gets high rainfall. Mozindram or Meghalaya region gets world highest rainfall. That's why this region is having thick forest. But western side of Gujarat and Rajasthan which get less rainfall. That's why vegetation is in the form of thorny bushes and cactus. Precipitation or rainfall and as well as temperature affect the growth of vegetation. The last important point is sunlight. Sunlight affect the vegetation. If we keep that a plant inside the room, inside the house, it will grow very slowly. But at the same time, if we keep a plant outside, which receives more sunlight, which grows very fast. That means these factors or sunlight, temperature and precipitation also affect the growth of vegetation. Is it okay? It's very simple. You can write. You just keep this point in your mind and you can write in your own way the answers. Okay? And remaining portion we can discuss in the next class. This much is enough. You should also read this geography first part also. Write your answers in your notebook. Thank you.
Geography Chapter 5 Natural Vegetation and Wildlife. Assignment questions. First question, what does the word natural vegetation mean? The second question, define flora and fauna. Third question, what is ecosystem? Fourth question, what factors are responsible for the distribution of plants and animals in India? Dear children, we have discussed the answers of all these questions. You should read the textbook and listen the video and write the question and answers in your notebook. After that, you all should send your answers, this question and answer from the geography lesson to my WhatsApp number. Thank you.